That noti.
Prepare to enter.
Oh, all right. You know what's up? It's Friday. Snake Pit Fridays. That's what's going on. Corey said he'd be late. Nico's not going to show up. He's a little sick, but we still got me and Corey. But here we go, Mitch. How you feeling, dude?
I'm feeling good, man. Thanks for having me on. How's it going?
I mean, everybody else that we've had on here, I have not had the pleasure of actually being at their place and seeing all the work they do. But I've been at your house. We've started a Chameleon video that we need to finish because it's going to be really good. But you have an awesome place, and I can see the work and dedication you're putting in, which drives me a little bit more. So it's really cool to have you on, somebody I've actually met in person.
Well, yeah, thank you for having me on, man. It is all about that dedication and that appreciation for the animals and the work that we do here, as you saw, and just, you know, with the work of keeping these animals as we do, you know. So, yeah, thanks for that compliment. I appreciate that. And, yeah, man, I'm really, really excited to finish that video. So
it'll be a good one, yeah.
All your followers can really I think they'll really get a kick out of it. Yeah.
So I don't know if I've asked you this before when we talked, but like, what kind of got you into the reptiles?
Well, you know, I've always been an animal lover my whole life. You know, thankfully I had a dad that really enabled my reptile ness. He allowed me to get a few cool lizards as a kid. Rather it be a little, you know, green anole or a bearded dragon or not a lizard, but a cool little tree frog. You know, it really opened my eyes to this whole world of keeping reptiles and amphibians in captivity and just, you know, animals in general. That kind of opened it, you know, kind of opened my eyes to it. And I got a pair of bearded dragons, and I ended up breeding them, and that's kind of what really got me into the keeping and breeding of reptiles.
That's awesome, yeah. So when did it? So you started with bearded dragons. Now, when did it switch to the chameleons? Because that's a big move for some people.
It's a huge move. You know, most people, like, I remember as a kid, you know, you'd hear like a chameleon, like, oh no, that's like the worst idea you could possibly, you know, do for your first lizard or whatever, because they're so fragile or they don't do good or whatever. But, you know, I think that is just kind of the concept of the times back in the day. Now that technology and the understanding of what these animals needs, of what their needs have increased, we're able to kind of keep them more successfully in captivity, allowing us to actually keep them, appreciate them, have a better connection and a longer, you know, thing with these animals. So basically what happened was I kept all those lizards that I talked to you about. I went to college. Had to sell all my animals before, because school's so important. Dorm rooms don't allow the animals. And after I finished my freshman year of college, during the freshman year, I met a kid in my psychology class that actually was a chameleon breeder. His name was Nick. He's known as the reptile kid up in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Oh no, he got kicked out. That's tragic. That's really tragic. I'm meaning to ask Mitch a question for like the past 3 days, and I've totally forgotten every single time. So I'm gonna ask him on this live. I can't forget. I seriously can't forget that, because I'm very intrigued by what the question has to do with. Now I guess we wait until he comes back. I don't know if you guys have realized, but I've been messing with the background for these lives. In the beginning, I was facing this wall, and you saw the Reptile Nation Expo shirt. I've switched my whole reptile room, in fact, like a whole 180. So it's completely different. I started doing the retic background, which I thought was really cool. Well, if he was in the right spot, because if he wasn't even the shot, it wasn't worth it. But a couple of times, I believe he was like right over my shoulder, just this yellow ball of snake. But now this time I'm facing the other wall where you can see we got the tarantulas. Four of them right here. The other two are in the top corner. We got the American bullfrog right here. We got one of my big dragons, Johnny. And I think what else can you see? You can see bacon, my corn snake. You can see strawberry jam, my other corn snake. If you can kind of see, what can you see? This little bin right here, that's my dubia roach colony. We got a box full of tarantula molts. We got the preserved Goliath burger, which is really cool. We got, I haven't even talked about these guys. These are skin beetles. What's up, Mitch? You got kicked out.
Dude, my computer did a restart. Sorry, new computer. Might be the DJ equipment, but I'm on my phone now, and we're all good. Okay, I'm so sorry. That was extremely inappropriate, but we're back here.
Yeah, no worries. No worries.
Do you want to finish what you're talking about?
I was just explaining my background, really. Just soaking up some time until you could get back in.
What's the one on the top right?
Which is your top right? Is that this one? That's American bullfrog right there that I got from the zoo. Yeah.
All right.
You finally.
I'm sorry about that. My apologies. The computer is
you're
coming online now, but that does not matter because we're on my phone. So, okay, what got me into chameleons? A guy from college pretty much opened my eyes to the panther chameleon. You know, that whole concept we were just talking about, how it's kind of, there's a fear to it. Like, they're hard to keep. They die quickly. Like, the fact that I met someone in college that bred them and had a business out of them, it was really cool to me. And, reptiles are everything to me. I think that when I was a kid I know that when I was a kid in high school, the only thing I constantly talk about with all my friends is just reptiles and animals and genetics and all that stuff. And, it's what I love. So it was really cool to see someone, harnessing, breeding panther chameleons in college, opened my eyes to it. I got my first panther chameleon after my freshman year in college. And that was it. That was Bear, the Ambelobe panther chameleon. And if you come to the booth at the reptile show, you'll see that I have panther chameleons that are 5 generations down from Bear, my first Ambelobe panther chameleon, that has all of them from Bear to Diablo to Arthas, all just high quality panther chameleons that have been breeding for a long time that you saw. Just all my hard work. It's what I love. And really what got me to it is college, the guy in college.
That's cool. That's real cool. Honestly, I kind of get that the reason you have behind doing the chameleons, because like when I first got into snakes, I was more into snakes than lizards and other geckos, but I slowly got into them. But anyways, with the snakes, I wanted to keep an emerald tree boa and certain different chondros. And when I found out it was hard and people couldn't really do it, even just keeping one chondro, not even trying to breed, I was like, okay, this has got to be something I do at some point in this reptile lifestyle. Like, it's got to be something I got to do, just so I can say I've done it, just because it's really hard.
Well, the challenge is real, and it feels really good to be able to keep a species that is hard to keep and have good success with it, especially a species that not a lot of people have kept before successfully. But I think just like the main thing with all of this is that it's all about husbandry. If like there can be a lot of like things that can go, like a lot of issues with keeping any type of fragile, chameleon, snake, whatever it is. But if you go above and beyond keeping your husbandry at its tip top finest, you'll like eliminate so many problems. Like with these snakes, the tree dwelling snakes, it's all about keeping an arboreal habitat. And sometimes that's kind of hard to keep when we're keeping them inside, all that stuff. So it's really about what the thoughts that go into it. And then just like with chameleons, similar to the types of snakes you're talking about, it's more of a specific type of keeping that's required to keeping them. So, it might be a lot different than keeping a dog, keeping a bearded dragon, keeping a tegu, keeping a guinea pig, whatever. But if you can just learn it's not simple, but if you can just learn like their needs and replicate them, which we kind of have down pretty much in the whole chameleon community and in
Yeah,
captivity, you know, you should have good success doing it. So
exactly. Yeah, I just even when I started first getting into geckos and different lizards, I saw chameleon and was like, I want to keep one of these. It looks so interesting just to study.
yeah, well, it's funny because I have one right here, so we can actually all study it together.
That's what I'm here for.
If it wants to come off my hand or off the tree onto my hand. But yeah,
That's the one, yeah.
chameleon, a good study right here. And it would be nice if I was on my laptop, but I'm not.
That's all right, no problem. That's crazy. So you wanna, because even I forgot from when doing our video, just because I haven't processed it yet. But you want to explain like the locality sort of deal and like the colors that are basically going on in his body.
Yeah, so the Ambelobe panther chameleon, that's what this guy is. This is what I was explaining to you as all my hard work kind of all into one with Bear, Arthas, Diablo. This is him. The Ambelobe panther chameleon is kind of the most diverse in color in terms of all the localities of panther chameleons, with the exception of like Mbanja, Comatose, which, by the way, these are all locations in Madagascar, which these are Malagasy names of the regions that they're from. Ambelobe is the region where this type of color pattern is from. Mbanja would be another region where a similar color pattern is from. They have Nosy Bay, which I actually have here. Thanks to Darcy, I have a Nosy Bay here to show off with you guys. Who's actually super fired up right now. You guys are going to love this.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
So this is a Nosy Bay, and this guy comes from, oh my gosh. This guy comes from a region in Madagascar that's from an island where all of the panther chameleons, I'm afraid he's going to fight me right now. Where all the panther chameleons,
Oh no.
I knew it. I knew it. Anyways, I knew it. Sorry, I was freezing up because I knew that was going to happen. Anyways, where all the panther chameleons on that island are either green or blue, which actually you and I discussed in that awesome educational video that we go over. All right, stand by, guys. I need some assistance here putting this guy up there.
Now
Anyways.
I don't lie. It's not something I do, but it's so true when people say the cameras don't do these animals justice, because I've seen both of those feelings in person, and it's just not the same.
Yeah, no, it's not. And I'm in, not the best lighting either.
Yeah. But
that,
they did great.
That was pretty crazy. I don't know if we got that much energy from that chameleon when we were filming.
Of course not, but I guess this time now.
Yeah, no, I guess he liked you a lot more than me this time. But
yeah.
Anyway, so different localities. That blue guy, he almost just bit my face off. He's a Nosy Bay who comes from an island from Madagascar, from the island of Nosy Bay, where they're all blue, green, whatever, that spectrum. And then they also have panther chameleons on an adjacent island of like Nosy Folly, where they're all blue, white, and red. They also have another island where they're all like Nosy Mitsio, where they're all green and yellow, and that's kind of my specialty. I don't have the Nosy Mitsio right now to show off, but the West Coast Chameleon Brothers specializes in breeding the Nosy Mitsio, and we've had a lot of fun doing it. But yeah, they all have cool localities, and we also have had a lot of fun mixing them together.
That's cool. So I have to ask you a question. I've been meaning to ask you like the past 3 days, totally forgot. But someone told me that people have been talking about Jackson's chameleons in LA, San Diego, and St. Louis Obispo just naturally out there. Have you heard about this, or what is your take on this?
So I have heard a lot about this throughout about my 7 years of being in the reptile industry, the hobby, getting to know people that, hear the rumors, people, the herpetologists that go out there and actually try to find these Jacksons. people in those areas that you talk about, San Luis Obispo, whatever. I have heard about it a little bit.
Yeah.
I've heard that the Jackson chameleons have been released in these areas and that they've kind of created a little established population. But from my understanding, trust me, I've gone out there and I've looked a little bit to try to find them. My understanding is that they usually only thrive in areas where there is a constant water source, which would be close to a golf course or something like that. So I do not think that they have enough of a sustainable food source in their areas or the proper temperatures or humidities that they'd be getting from Africa that they'd be normally getting to sustain themselves. But they are there. So and people do find them, and I don't know,
cool.
it's pretty cool. But from my understanding is that they have to come from a place where there is a sustainable water source, which is kind of hard to find in California.
Yeah, I get that. But it's crazy to think about how these animals, because they're there, you know that. You just haven't seen any. But it's crazy to think how they've been able to make their way over here, even through us, but still survive out there.
True. Yep. It's really cool. It's pretty cool how prolific they are. I mean, you've heard of the Jackson chameleons getting out in Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
They've basically taken over the islands of Hawaii to some degree. You see them on almost every island. You see people taking photos of these awesome Jackson chameleons on all these islands. And where did they originate from? Africa.
Yeah.
They weren't from there first. So it is really cool. It's really cool to see such an awesome lizard be able to go from one place in the world to a completely different and thrive and sustain itself and create multiple generations. So
Exactly.
Yep.
Now, which species is in Florida? Because I know, aren't there some chameleons in Florida too?
So from my understanding, there are a good amount of wild-caught veiled chameleons in Florida.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
they
an
are.
invasive veiled
There are some.
population.
Hey, how's it going, man? I don't think I've met you yet.
Yeah, this is Corey.
Yeah.
Hey, what's
I
up,
totally
brother?
forgot. For a hot second, I forgot Corey lived in Florida. I should have just asked you, bro.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
actually, it'd be funny. It'd be funny to hear my knowledge compared to yours, but yeah. Can I say what I've heard first, and then
Yeah.
we can
Yeah.
compare?
Yeah.
Okay, so wild-caught veileds, and dude, I've had some friends catch me some big ones. They're some of the most. I've had some more beefier veileds than rhino iguanas in my house. That's how crazy it is. I don't know what they're eating, like if it's fruits or whatever, but I've gotten some of the craziest big butt veiled chameleons from Florida. We found traces of Jackson chameleons, and then some really cool like hybrid panther chameleons from old chameleon breeders releasing them and them all mixing together and hybridizing.
Yeah.
And then Auslet's chameleon, that one. Yeah, those four.
So now, Corey, what have you heard since you're live on the scene, basically?
Pretty much the same. I've never found one. I mean, I'm pretty close to the Everglades. I think they're just up further north. I know we would have perfect area for them right where I live, but I just haven't found any.
Hey, you gotta do a video. You gotta do a herping video.
Yeah, go search for chameleons, Corey.
I'm so close to all the best herping spots, honestly.
Well, I might know a few people that you can get some ideas of where to go and take some friends out and go enjoy it. I hear it's kind of fun to herp and catch wild-caught chameleons, and since they're invasive there, you're actually doing Florida a favor. So,
yeah.
Cool.
Well, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. So, I mean, I'm trying not to ask too many questions that will be covered in the video, but I guess, if it's said twice as many people are learning. But what is your, the biggest issue you think when people are taking care of chameleons? And they're doing it wrong, obviously.
Yeah, I just say not doing the proper research before you get your chameleon. we try as best as we can to educate our customers so that that doesn't happen, because that's really the issue, is husbandry. Kind
Yeah.
of like I was saying earlier. If you have the proper husbandry and you're doing everything you should, then you really shouldn't have much to worry about. So yeah, having the proper husbandry, having the proper lighting, having the proper UVB, knowing what species needs what different UVB radiation. A veiled chameleon needs a lot more than a Jackson chameleon.
Yeah.
You can compare different species, same kind of stuff. But yeah, husbandry would kind of be the main thing, and just kind of making sure you're doing everything that chameleon needs.
That's cool. And I mean, it's just, that's why we decided to make our video, to spread that kind of knowledge.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm really excited to release that.
It'll be. So you're going to the show in 2 weeks. I'm excited. I didn't know you were going.
Yep.
But
we will be vending. The Reptile Super Show is one of the biggest reptile shows on the West Coast, and it's going to be gnarly, like in the best reptilian way possible. It's going to be awesome.
I'm excited to see what you're bringing. I really am.
Yeah, I can't drop the bomb yet on everybody, but we're probably going to bring, I'd say, one of the best selections ever that we've had at a reptile show, and a really cool new project that we've been working on, bearded dragons. We'll be bringing a lot of really cool bearded dragons, which is a great, beginner reptile for any kid or anyone getting into the reptile industry. They're a great starter. They're a great pet. They're a great companion. And yeah, hope we're gonna bring the heat in terms of the bearded dragons, and hopefully a lot of people at the show get a lot of it. So
Exactly. So I know you have like a lot of interesting knowledge on chameleons. Is there anything about bearded dragons that you can toss our way that I wouldn't know?
Oh man, well, yeah, like we talked about, bearded dragons is what I started on. So I started that when I was 12, and I'm a lot older now. Man, I don't know. I don't know. I'd say with bearded dragons, just like I'm gonna say with chameleons, husbandry. They come from Australia. They require hot temperatures. Like, you got to think about, like, if the animal is not getting what it needs where it's from, then it's going to have a hard time. Like, the body's going to have a hard time doing what it needs, like digesting or not being stressed out or whatever. So keeping a bearded dragon at a really high temperature, which it requires, a really high basking spot, but then also having a really a cool side for it is super important. So I don't know, bearded dragon, husbandry, and feeding it a lot and loving it. And yeah, I don't know, they're just too cute and awesome, but just keeping them hot, that's the thing.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. Bro, I'm
So,
excited.
do you do species of snakes at all? Or are you mostly into the lizards?
I'm mostly a lizard dude. Yeah, bearded dragons, chameleons, geckos, gargoyle geckos, crested geckos. Those are really cool. Those are like a nice.
Yeah.
So you know how I said, like, the bearded dragons are a cool starter for the reptile world. Crested geckos and gargoyle geckos are a great starter or a good stepping stone to the chameleon world, which is like, a more advanced level in the reptile world. So I started breeding crested geckos and gargoyle geckos just for that specific purpose, because ideally you're going to be spraying your chameleon, if you don't have an automatic mister or whatever, 2 to 3 times a day. You're going to be spraying your gargoyle gecko or crested gecko 1 time a day, feeding it, every other day, depending on what you're feeding it, between the fruit mix or the crickets, whatever you're feeding it. And it kind of creates a good understanding of kind of what goes into keeping a chameleon. So that's kind of what else I also was getting into. And it was mainly just to teach people the basics to chameleon keeping.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, so let me ask you this. If you had to own a snake, which one do you think you'd be owning if you absolutely had to own a snake?
Well, Well, guys, I never said that I never owned a snake. We were talking about breeding a snake. I've owned a lot of snakes.
Oh, okay.
I've owned retics. I've owned Burmese pythons. I've owned multiple types of ball pythons. I've owned. You guys, are you familiar with a boiga?
Yes.
You know, the mangrove tree snake.
Yeah.
Really love that species. Pretty. Sorry, of course you're familiar with that. I'm sorry. I don't even know why I'm. You know, it was a cool thing for me. So I don't mean to
No, it's all right. No
talk
problem.
to the snake experts like that, but I really love the boiga. And when I go to the Reptile Super Show, that's going to be something that I'm looking for. Is I'm very familiar with the black and yellow one. I've kept a lot of wild caught ones, but I want to get a captive bred. I know they're only more colorful when they're younger, but I want to get a captive bred. It's like an offshot of the black and yellow one. It has it has a slightly different scientific nickname, but that's what I'm looking for. Maybe you guys know what I'm.
Yeah, I have someone there looking for one for me as well.
Cool. That's cool.
I'm going to look for one for somebody else. So we're all looking for the same thing now.
Yeah, it's a hot item.
Yeah,
But,
especially finding a captive bred one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where the booth that I'm going to run over to right away is DM Exotics. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them.
I think so.
Yeah. And, you know, they go out literally into nature and find these animals and really study them and are great importers and have a lot of captive bred groups of these animals. So that's where I'm going to be going first at the Reptile Super Show.
That's awesome. Looks like we got a question for the Chameleon Master. I'll pop it up on the screen right now.
Got it?
What is the lifespan for a panther chameleon?
Okay, so panther chameleon in captivity, about 5 to 7 years. You got to keep in mind that a normal lifespan for panther chameleons, or most chameleons in the wild, are about 3 years because they just have so much to they have so much working against them. With predators, with nature, with human pollution, with everything. They're lucky to live about 3 to 5 years in the wild, but in captivity, we can do 5 to 7 years, and it's awesome to have them for that long.
That's pretty cool. Great answer, bro. You could have just said, 4 to 7 years. You always go above and beyond, which I think is pretty cool.
Well, I got to give a little more to it. Right?
You're right. It's appreciated.
Cool.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. So, I mean, I don't know. Chameleons are just one of those things because I've talked to you about this. It's all based on the research that the people need to do and the hard work they need to put in. Because I know people who've gotten chameleons as their first reptile and it's still doing great.
Yeah, they're doing the right things. They're cleaning the tank properly. They're changing the light bulb out at the right time. They're feeding it the right things. Sorry, my throat's dry. They're taking care of it. I'd say that where that can go downhill is, if the animal is a wild-caught chameleon, they can come in with parasites.
Yeah.
With parasites, a chameleon can be easily stressed. When an organism is easily stressed, the immune system freaks out, parasites take a hold, boom. Chameleon's not happy, it's going downhill. That's where, things go south. So, I'd say just like the main thing, you'll get the most longevity out of captive bred chameleons. Wild-caught chameleons, you have the most problems. And then, some chameleons stress out more than others.
Yeah.
And it's really all about the nature and the personality of your chameleon. Like, some people try to force a nice bond relationship with a really aggressive veiled. Well, that's never going to happen because that veiled chameleon has learned to act that way to protect itself. But, there are other captive bred chameleons or just other chameleons out there that, that haven't learned that self-defense mechanism, aren't as aggressive, and you can create a really good bond with, certain panther chameleons. Actually, any type of chameleon out there. It just really depends. The less wild-caught it is, the more success you're going to have with keeping an animal that's keeping a non-aggressive chameleon.
Yeah. So I know when I first started keeping snakes, it was like there was a few things that I knew could go wrong with them and how I knew exactly what to do. But then the more and more I started keeping them, and a couple of years after, I encountered nidovirus, which I didn't know anything about. Nobody really talked about it a lot, and it ultimately killed one of my snakes, and one of my snakes still has it. So I know we've been talking about a bunch of chameleon parasites or viruses that people just don't know much about. I didn't know anything about. Is there anything you want to talk on there just about so if people see these signs in these chameleons, they can figure out what's going on instead of wasting time researching it, and then by then the chameleon is not doing the greatest at all.
Yeah. So huge alert with chameleons. If they are impacted with these things that you're talking about, you don't have a lot of time. The chameleon, very simple organism. They don't have a lot of fat on their body. They can go downhill very quickly. Yes, let's talk a little bit. I'd love to because I have 10 years of experience with it.
Yeah.
But it also is. It's also an umbrella. I deal with it heavily with chameleons, especially with wild-caught chameleons, because they come in from the wild and they have these parasites, and they cannot. Oh, my cat just jumped up here. They usually cannot. Wolf, you want to say hi? There's Wolfie. They usually cannot take the stress and deal with these parasites. I don't know. I guess the umbrella here is all animals can deal with these parasites. These parasites can come from our feeder sources. These parasites can come from just having not a clean environment. These parasites can come from, bringing wild-caught animals into an area where you have captive-bred animals, which you also should never do. I'm just trying to create examples here. This is something that a lot of people don't talk about, just like this virus, because no one wants to talk about. If you start talking about it, then they've got this, they've got that, blah blah blah. Yeah. But no, the reality is that this is a thing. Wolfie, sorry, the cat. This is a thing This is a thing that people deal with because you can have the most sterile environment for your chameleon, and then you get a bad batch of crickets that has pinworms or something in it, and hey, guess what? You got to deal with it, and it's scary because it is because a chameleon can go downhill really quickly. It can be 5 days, a week, 2 weeks, and boom, it's done. The main signs of a chameleon having parasites, having a bacterial infection, having a fungal infection internally is the feces, and I think that this is a rule that we can apply to most reptiles. If you get their poop, their feces, and it's watery, it's runny, it doesn't look right, it's not solid, then hey,
there's something wrong.
Maybe the like a chameleon could sometimes I feed my chameleons hornworms, which are really big, watery, which could sometimes make that kind of diarrhea, kind of gross looking thing. But if I don't do that and you're feeding just a nice variety of food and it's not watery and you see something wrong with the poop, you got to hop on right away. And that's really what it is. It's all about the poop with all reptile keeping, in my opinion. But if you see it in a chameleon, hop on it right away. Go to a vet, talk to someone who knows what they're doing. Yeah,
makes sense. I actually didn't even think about it that way.
I can ramble on about it for hours, and sorry, but
but yeah, I didn't think about that. Just watching little signs that your reptile can do just to show you what's wrong.
So yeah. So I'm not much of a snake keeper because I can't read their signs as well as I can read a chameleon's signs.
Yeah.
I can't even read if the snake for some reason is about to bite me, and that scares the living heck out of me. But I can walk by a chameleon's cage and I can see I can literally see that it's not looking at me right, and it doesn't look happy, and it's not, its head might be down a little bit, or like it's not, it doesn't have the energy that it should be giving out. And
Yeah.
right away I look at the situation, and most of the time this would be with like a wild caught import. We're trying to acclimate it to get it to get what it was getting wherever it's from, Africa or whatnot. And I like to check in with it. I'd look at its poop. If I see that it's really runny, if I see that there's something wrong with it, I'll treat it with what we call Panicure, which is a really good dewormer, which I think is pretty much used across the board in the reptile world. I don't know about snakes.
Yeah.
And and just kind of take it from there. Again, I could talk for hours on this.
What I think is cool too, the way you talked about, if you don't know if a snake is gonna bite you, but when a chameleon is feeling off. I thought it was pretty cool when I first saw chameleons how they're dark when they're mad and they're brighter when they're happy, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, they're pretty much like mood rings. A lot of people see that YouTube video of that veiled chameleon touching that the sunglasses, and it starts changing colors immediately. That doesn't happen. They're more mood rings, but each mood ring has a certain color spectrum that they can change, and they all change these colors based on mood, emotion, and the temperature. You can make any chameleon super bright if it's really hot. Not a good thing. You don't want it to be super bright. Also, them being that bright and that hot and that colorful for that long means it's getting stressed out, or it's trying to dominate or mate for too long,
Yeah.
and it's not good. So yeah, it's good to have the chameleons in their nice chill colors.
Exactly, yeah. Because I've seen panthers do it. I've seen a veiled. The veiled surprises me because I've usually seen veileds go from darker greens to like maybe lighter greens and blues. We have a veiled in the zoo who is just absolutely crazy. When he's calm, he's already dark green, and when he's pissed off, he goes all the way down to grays and blacks. And then I took him out of the cage once, and for whatever reason, that calmed him down, and he went all the way up to like light greens and some bright oranges that I've never seen before in a veiled, even though I haven't seen that many veileds, but I thought it was awesome.
Man, yeah. Yeah, no, that sounds like a lot of fun. And I think I know that chameleon you're talking about. I think I saw him in the corner of my eye, and I wanted to know the colors he was changing, or he could change. So thank you for letting me know. I think I know the chameleon you're talking about. Yeah, it's super cool. They all have that spectrum, and yeah, it sounds like he was super pissed and super scared when he was really dark and flexing really hard. And then, when he was flashing all those colors, he was showing off. He was, giving you his all in a good way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's cool. They're really cool creatures. It just really blows my mind to see these animals change colors like this in the wild. Why they change these colors? Why they're so colorful? What evolved them to, or what got them to evolve to this place where they're this colorful? It's just so mind blowing. So
yeah,
cool that you touch up on
Yeah.
it.
So, I'll ask you this because this just popped into my head. You like chameleons, that's obvious. But I want to know how you feel about the false Cuban chameleon. Because I feel like you can either like it so much because it's not exactly, but it's similar to chameleon. Or I feel like you can hate it because it can never be how cool a chameleon is. I'm interested in your opinion.
You're talking about the false Cuban chameleon?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, don't get me started. That's one of my favorite lizards.
There we go.
Honestly, we're gonna have one of those at our booth at the Reptile Super Show for sale.
Oh, cool.
So it'd be pretty cool. But honestly, it's such a cool lizard because it's a lizard that's almost stuck in evolution between an anole and a chameleon. And
Yeah.
I'm not and like I said, chameleons require a very specific habit, keeping regimen in order to keep them. They're from a very specific habitat. They have these very specific colors. The false chameleon has these specific things for whatever reason from evolution that it needed, and it kind of almost got stuck in between a chameleon and an anole.
Yeah.
They don't change colors as drastically as a chameleon. They have eyes like a chameleon. They think like, okay, this is the coolest thing. I just thought about this. They think like
Oh
a
my
chameleon. They think like a chameleon. They want to move like a chameleon, but they move kind of fast like an anole. I don't know how to think it or how to explain it. Like,
Yeah, I get you though.
yeah, I wish we could show everyone what it looks like. It's literally an anole cross chameleon, and it's just really cool to see how there's different stages, you know, in in lizards. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome though. And that's interesting to think about. I knew these chameleons were like part chameleon and part some other like a knollish lizard, but I didn't think about it like stuck right there in the middle in between of evolution. I'm gonna use that line.
Well. That's just like the way I explain it. Like, maybe it's not.
Well, yeah,
I'm pretty sure it is, but yeah, I mean, it has to be. Like, if you look at it, it literally looks like an anole and a chameleon, and it all depends on where this lizard evolved in, the region that it evolved in. To me, it seems like maybe in that area that this Cuban, this is all theoretical. I need to study more, but maybe in this region, and I'm saying this while I look at my chameleons. In this region that this Cuban false chameleon is, they don't require as much climbing on vertical trees going across like this. They require more, being upward. You guys have seen like anoles on like logs.
Yeah.
They're more like that, looking for prey. Chameleons are more like standing horizontally, and maybe it was just in that region. Where the Cuban false, I keep mixing them up. I keep mixing them up. It's a false chameleon and the Cuban, or whatever. The false chameleon is from, maybe they had trees that didn't have as much density going across. So maybe they were just required to evolve in a way where they didn't need more opposable thumbs to walk across the limbs or the prehensile tail. And they got away with just that anole-like body, but they use the chameleon-like eyes to find certain prey because maybe it was a lot faster. Have you ever seen a chameleon lock on target?
Yeah.
They can do it with a fly or anything. I don't think an anole can lock onto a target that much. So it's like they just evolve these certain things in these areas to just be the best they can be. Like all of us.
That's what I've always thought is pretty cool about chameleons, how they're almost built for hunting, all eyesight, no hearing, ranged attack, camouflage, and even the way it moves, it's all stealthy.
Yep. Yeah, I'm gonna show you. I got this dude right here, being a stealth bomber.
That's so cool.
Yeah, pretty epic.
That's awesome. I need to get
Now, just a question.
Yes.
That false chameleon that you're gonna have at your table did you breed that?
No, I did not
Because
breed it.
they're super hard to breed.
No, I did not breed it. I'm getting it from a friend. I don't know where he got it from. So.
Have you ever tried? Because I've just heard that incubating them is really hard.
I know of some breeders in Florida, like Tiki's geckos, who have successfully bred them, or maybe captive hatched them. I don't really know, but he's definitely hatched them out, which means that he's either incubated them or he's like naturally incubated them. Like in Florida, like in an open environment. So I don't know. They're from Cuba, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So So I'd say, yeah, if you're in Florida, that pretty much is very and close to the Everglades. That should be very similar, needs to what they're getting. So you should maybe try it. Yeah,
I know. So I have an area in the back where geckos, that being tokay, Mediterranean, stuff like that, just lay their eggs wherever, and I don't move them. I don't do anything like that. I let them hatch, and I bring them out, take them out, but just put them back. It's super cool.
Cool.
It's cool.
Yeah, you could probably do the same thing with the false chameleon.
Yeah.
And even the giant Cuban night anole, which is the two that I was getting confused. But
Yeah.
I've heard of the
Oh yeah, that's what it
the
is.
giant
Yeah.
Cuban night anole. I've heard of that being a invasive, prolific species in Florida, which is not good.
You see
But-
them a lot.
Yeah, but you know, I'm
So-
sure that you can have good success with like keeping the false chameleon in like a chameleon cage outside. Just keep it super misted. You know, like half shaded. You should have really good success with that.
Yeah. And like the eggs I've found here, tokay Mediterranean gecko, normal house gecko, brown anole, green anole. I've never found the Cuban night anole. Never found
harder?
eggs for that.
They're around though. They're definitely around.
They're around. Yep.
Yep.
I find babies all the time. Those things are mean.
Are they?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, they
I
definitely.
have pictures from them biting me.
That's crazy. You have any other questions, Corey? I know I've been talking like this whole time.
Not really.
My cat started talking.
My cat is too. It's outside though. You can still hear it. Oh geez.
Yeah, that's a Cuban night. They're really cool. They're really cool.
I forgot about those.
They're really big. Aren't there some in the zoo? I think there are.
There is.
Yeah.
I don't, because I was thinking about those the whole time we were talking, but I couldn't for the life of me remember the name or that it was even.
So okay, so sorry, man. I'm sorry if I mixed it up. So there's a Cuban night anole, which is that really big anole that Corey was showing us, and then there's a false chameleon, which is like an anole-like lizard, which changes, which fires up and fires down, and it has chameleon-like eyes and is slow like a chameleon, but has a body like an anole. And I'm sure you know what it is. I just wanted to clarify for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're slightly different. Super cool. And I was just trying to explain like I'd like to look into it more, but you know, the ideas behind the how these animals came to and why they look the way they look. I just think it's super cool.
That's awesome. So this is a good question because I'm interested too. It's not necessarily like snake prices, but if they can show this comment real quick.
Oh, there we go.
How much do chameleons go for, or does it depend on the color?
Yeah, I guess the better the color, right? Like just with like any animal, the more expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
But it all depends. You know, yeah. But it really just depends on the species, and it depends on kind of like how much work or the history behind the chameleon or the color, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Like you can have a nosy bay that's blue, that's super awesome, right? Coolest thing in the world.
Yeah.
You know, be a certain price, but then you can have like, you know, a designer chameleon with all these crazy colors in it for like a way higher price, and they're just as beautiful. But it just really depends on like what's put into it, where it's from, and you know, just like with anything, the market price with it. You know, it depends on what people want and what's hard to get, I guess. Like the locality nosy mitsil, one of the rarer one of the rarer panther chameleon locales. One that I really try to work as hard as I can on. You know, that's one that not many people can get because they ban exportation from that certain region for a certain amount of time. And it makes them more rare. And so it all depends on the people, and it depends on the market, and it depends on the story behind the animals.
Awesome, yeah. Because I've seen the difference between the ones that are, you know, the first generation and then a couple generations after. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it definitely makes a big difference. But not always. Like I've seen some wild caught chameleons come in, and just reptiles, period, come in from the wild that, whew, you know, you think it's unreal how beautiful some of the animals are.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. We tend to see a lot more beautiful creatures coming from years of selective breeding.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I know we already talked about this, with just another question from Savage Critters. They seem super sensitive to heat and humidity and makes them a little more difficult to keep. Would you agree?
Totally. So yeah, it all comes down to like recreating that micro, habitat. Like if you were to keep a dart frog or a dart frog, terrarium, you wouldn't keep them in a hot room because that'd nuke them, right? So like a panther chameleon, you'd want to keep them in a room that's kind of AC, with a little fan. You want to make sure that they get a certain basking spot, which is what they need, and a certain cool down area.
Yeah.
I like to keep my panther chameleons at a basking spot, depending on the locality, anywhere from about 85 to 92 degrees, and then have cool down spots all around the cage and uh, constant airflow. So it all depends. So yeah, just like you know animals that need specific things. You just got to create the specific thing. I think the biggest issue is like that I get asked the most, you know, having a chameleon company and all that is how the heck do I keep this screen cage high in humidity? It's like I spray it and then it's like zero humidity 2 days, 2 seconds later.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's like you can do a lot of things to hold the humidity in. You could put sides up, and then just spraying enough times a day. That might mean you're not spraying enough if there's not enough humidity.
Yeah.
I've learned that if I spray my cage 3 to 5 times a day, the humidity usually stays up really well. If I have my backs up and a lot of like, backs up to keep the water in, and a lot of mossy vines, and
Yeah.
not super mossy vines because those will hold bacteria in a bad way, but just like keeping maybe a live plant in there or just a few things to keep the humidity up, that usually helps. But yeah, the main thing is just water the cage a lot, and put the sides up, and don't worry about it too much.
Sweet. Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So I know when I was doing research, because I wanted to put live plants in my chameleon enclosure, there were certain plants that you could put in there or not, depending on, because I know the veils are omnivore. I know
Yeah.
what other chameleons are omnivores where you'd have to worry about putting those plants in there because they might eat them.
So that's funny that you asked that. 1 second. Um, so yes, the veils are omnivores, and you need to be careful because whatever plant they eat in the cage, that can get them sick. But you also need to think about it this way: what are you feeding these chameleons? It doesn't matter if the chameleon is an omnivore or not. What you're feeding these chameleons, they're going to eat this plant, and then whatever's eating whatever you're feeding, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the idea is whatever plant you put in any cage, whether it's a monitor lizard, whether it's a chameleon, whether it's, I don't know what it is, you want it to be lizard safe, and that means something that's non-toxic. Um, like an umbrella tree, a ficus tree, a money tree, um, ficus. Yeah, there's a bunch of different plants, and there's a lot of plants that people use in like bioactive terrariums. A lot of most of the plants you can get on like Josh's frogs or whatever.
Yeah.
Those are all good plants for chameleons. And the thing is, like, I don't really know. I've had the panther chameleons do not eat plants normally, but I've had some that do. But the main thing is, so you just always got to be careful. So you always need to make sure that you have the right plants in it. And if you're getting plants from sources that you don't know, if they're using pesticides or whatever, make sure you clean that plant off and let it out to dry for like at least 2 weeks. But the main thing is get your plants from places that do not put pesticides on their plants, because either the chameleon is going to eat it, or whatever you're feeding your animal, whether it's a chameleon or whatever, maybe not a snake. The cricket will eat the plant, and then the animal cricket, and then you can make the whatever you're keeping sick. So
Exactly.
So I guess what I'm saying in a very long tangent is, keep safe plants in your terrarium or your chameleon cage because it'll go a long way.
Good, good, yeah, that makes sense. So, I mean, what other chameleons out there? I know you talked on the panther chameleons, but what kind of, I don't know if you know this, but what kind of decides for these panthers? You know, what makes them omnivorous or just strictly an insectivore? Does it depend on like their environment?
Yeah, I'd say, the environment that they're evolved in, like, for some reason, yeah, I don't know. This is just the way I look at it. Like in the forest that they're in, there's either a high load of bugs, or there's a lot of each, or maybe like in Madagascar where the panther chameleons are, the fruits in that area are toxic, or
Yeah.
there aren't fruits, so they're only eating insects, or I don't know what it is. I haven't been there, so I can't really tell you, but I can only guess. And yeah, I guess it's really what where they're from, what Mother Nature is offering them.
Yeah. So this is Nico, our other guy from the snake pit. He couldn't make it today. He was a little sick, but he said, "Is there a chameleon species you don't have and want to work with?"
So there's been a few chameleon species that I have gotten in that I've gotten for customers or whatnot. And gosh, I wish they weren't for customers. I wish they were for me. Super cool creatures. One of my favorite, the sailfin chameleon. They're called Triceras cristatus. It's literally like a Spinosaurus, from like Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Has this like crazy fin going down the back, and they have like these crystals on their head almost that change colors to like this bright like turquoise blue.
That's crazy.
You can look it up. It's called Triceras cristatus, I believe, and or the the sailfin chameleon, and they're just my favorite. I really wish that I was able to get a few groups in, because gosh darn, I'd love to work with them for a long time. But I've had them. I'd love to work with them more, and I'd love to make some for America, but I just haven't had the chance yet.
Yeah, that's right. No worries. You'll get there, bro.
Hopefully.
So I've had this idea for a little while now, and when I went to your house, you actually had the exact same idea, but basically just a room where the chameleons can just do their thing in, but it's huge. It's not no 2 by 2 by a foot screen little enclosure. It's this huge room full of chameleons where they're hopefully going to try and breed, and you'll just see babies up and around.
You're talking about the whole greenhouse concept, or yeah. So it's cool. What I'd say with that, it requires a lot of experience, understanding the behaviors of the animals, and the main rule is only keep one male in with the group, because it's not a good idea, guys. Like any keeping chameleons, do not keep them in groups. They're very solitary creatures. But there are some more communal species than others, such as like the Honelli or the helmeted chameleon, that I am trying to work with communal groups on.
Cool.
Yes. So that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's really cool. It like, I don't know how to explain it. I'm really lucky to have the experience to be able to keep chameleons that way. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
And
pretty cool.
what I'd love to do is I'd like to get some footage for you guys, because it'd be really cool to show that.
That'd be awesome. That'd be real cool.
But yeah.
That's awesome. Really, seriously. I mean, I've said it in the beginning of this, but I've seen the work you do, and just like every little thing that you think about, and it shows really, not only in like the cool chameleons, but just everything that you do for the chameleons.
Thank you, man. Yeah, the one thing I've learned, it's all about husbandry. It's like it's all about keeping them. The more you put into keeping these animals and making them happy, the more happier you'll be. Because at a point, when you're keeping so many animals, it becomes your life. Like it is for me. And really, just the more I put into making them happy, the more happy I am. So
Exactly.
and that's just with anything. Like you know when you see a ball python or a crested gecko that is not kept in a tub versus when it's kept in like a nice setup, like a 20-gallon setup. Like there's a difference. It's the same thing. It's all about how we keep the kept and how we keep ourselves.
Totally, yeah. Well, I mean, this has been great, Mitch. Thank you for coming on. Anytime somebody asks for panther chameleons, whether they're being dead serious or they're just joking around, I say West Coast Chameleon Brothers every
man.
single time, without fail.
Even if they're joking, I'm down for the jokes. So I'm here to have a good time.
Exactly.
And thank you so much for having me on, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Mitch.
It.
I can't wait to see you at the show. Can't wait to see what you do with these chameleons. It's awesome.
I'll do the show.
Your knowledge is amazing. All the little details you pay attention to is awesome.
And Corey, I avoided certain topics just to save them for the video that we're doing together. So we could have easily done another hour or two. Just keep that in mind, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. With chameleons, that's the thing. I kind of sugarcoated it. Like it's all that it is. Like if you set your mind to it, you can keep a chameleon. They're really, you can get a lot out of it. They're really awesome creatures. But yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, and I can talk about it for hours. And yeah. So,
one day we will.
One day.
Part 2, baby.
You know it. All right. Well, thank you guys. Hope you both have a great night. And
Yeah, you too.
Good night too.
Later.
You guys have a good one. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I'd also like to say we're not having a snake pit next Friday just because of the show. So we'll have one the next Friday. So, and if anybody is going to the Anaheim show at the Anaheim Convention Center, September 11th and 12th, me and Nika will be there. And, if you guys want to meet up or whatever, we might be going live on the snake pit too. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You're going to be there. You might as well get everyone else there as well.
Yeah,
exactly.
Kind of, everyone should, tune into your channel because I'm sure you're going to be broadcasting a lot of it. And I mean, I don't know, when I watch other people, from afar, like at an East Coast event from the West Coast, and they're just having the time of their life, it's really awesome. So,
it is, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure everyone's going to love it. So film it. Get everyone.
I will, yeah.
I might be too busy with the chameleons because they're too much work, but I'll try myself too.
All right. Well, you guys have a good night. Thank you, everybody else, for joining. We'll see you in 2 Fridays or at the show if you plan on going.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. See you, Mitch.
Bye.